Hi, everyone. This is Tim Selden. I'm president of the Montessori Foundation, and this is our weekly webcast, Finding the Perfect Match, designed for both Montessori and non-Montessori schools. And in this particular webcast, unlike the one we do on Thursdays and occasionally on Wednesdays, we focus predominantly on making the phone ring, handling the admissions process, even during the summer, building a community, onboarding new families, communicating with families, dealing with all the issues that come up with families, including teachers who feel like parents are a pain in the neck and wish the kids didn't come with parents attached, but they do. Anyway, this week we're going to be talking about how to keep your families engaged and onboarded during the summer. It's a little bit different than a similar workshop that we have. Thank you for Lisa. Called the New Parents Onboarding Playbook, because unlike that one, which has to do with a family is brand new to your school, today I'm going to be talking about what I would do, what I have done, and what I would recommend you do between now and whenever school starts again. And basically, the argument is it's a serious mistake to think that sending out one or two emails with the school calendar, maybe a copy of the parent handbook, that's enough. It is not. Not just new parents, but returning parents. They tend to feel like out of sight, out of mind. This, by the way, is one of the reasons why we tend to get a certain number of Dear John, Dear Tim, Dear Lynn emails during the summer saying, we're really sorry to tell you this at the last minute, but our little daughter Caitlin's going to be going to Snate Academy or the local public schools next year. And all of her friends are going, we made the decision. We're so sorry. And you're sitting there saying, well, what am I supposed to do? I hold them to the contract? Do I vomit? What am I supposed to do? People don't come to us because they're committed legally. They come to us because they made a decision to spend important money, as much money as a car, for a lot of people, as much money as what they pay for their house or their apartment, to send their children to our school. There are a lot of reasons why people come to us, and a lot of it is rationalization. What they really do is they come to a school where their kid is happy, and God help you if the kid's not happy, and where they feel seen, heard, and where they feel a connection, a trust. So, what we're trying to do during the summer is not let that relationship go cold. Another basic point is parents do not necessarily want to be educated. And what those of us tend to do is, basically do a look at me, look at how cool we are, look at how we teach math, look at how we teach geometry, look at whatever. And I don't care if you're Montessori or not Montessori, there's a reasonably good chance that what you're throwing at them may or may not be what they care about. Now, when we, as Montessori educators, we are taught to follow the child. And what that really means is pay attention, observe, do everything you can, have your finger on the pulse of what's going on for the child, not just what's going wrong. What's the child care about? What she's interested, what she's feeling, what turns her on. The idea is it's a lot easier to go with the current than to ignore it or to fight it. And what we're trying to do is take advantage of all the things that are true for the child. Not only what is she ready for, but what does she want? What is she interested in? So again, our basic premise is we need to develop relationships with the families all through the first time they first call us, the very first contact, all the way through the day they graduate from our school. Whether you stop at kindergarten, sixth grade, eighth grade, 12th grade, like we do, it doesn't matter. Every year is an opportunity to blow the relationship or keep it alive. And it's not just emails. Trust me, it is not just emails, nor is it postal mail. It's lots of things you could do. So that's what today's all about. Before I get started, does anyone who's online have anything that you want to share or ask? Nothing's popping up in the chat. Nothing is coming in from you, Lynn.
Nope.
So I'm going to assume that no one has any thoughts, which is okay. So I'll start sharing.
I'll pipe in. I got my Dear Lynn letter just last night or this morning on somebody who had signed up and hasn't been here at all. But and you never know what all is involved. But that summer melt is painful, especially when it's a 3-year-old changing their mind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, they may have gotten a better offer. They may have gotten into that local charter school. Their sister may have said, I just decided to send my kid to the Jewish day school down the street. I mean, all kinds of things can happen. So again, it's all about relationship, and relationship is two-sided. But you can't make someone love you, but what you can do is show them how much you care. And you can try to make sure that they know that you want to hear what they have to say. This is why we always push the idea of the monthly community and class meetings, and the idea of not just having a suggestion box, but every single opportunity to have coffee and conversation. And again, not to educate them. People don't want to feel like we're Jehovah's Witnesses or missionaries of some sort trying to change them. What they appreciate is that maybe we make sense. Hopefully, we have really good wisdom, and that we're good listeners, and that when they're upset, we don't get defensive. We really want to help. Doesn't mean they're always right. Doesn't mean they're always rational. They may be very irrational. And by the way, I would also be the first person to tell you that if you've got a family in your school that is treating you and your teachers with profound disrespect, and everything about them is suggesting that they don't trust you, they don't feel like you're meeting their child's needs, my general advice is damn the budget, tell them they need to find another school in the nicest possible way. And by the way, the way I usually would say that is, hello, Renee. The way I would usually say that is every child deserves to be in a school where the families uh, feel that the school is a good fit, where they trust it, where they feel that they have confidence in the school. And I don't mean the first time they ever act like they have questions that somehow they don't have confidence. But if they really step over the line, I would certainly say that, your child deserves to be in a school that you can trust, that you have confidence in, and that you feel that, it's a good fit. It's not good for your child to be torn in between your family and her teacher or the school. So if you really act like you're not happy, we get it, and it's okay. And your child deserves to be in a school where you can feel that kind of trust. Hello, Dee. I see you got your camera on, but we're just about to get started with a slideshow. If you or Renee or anyone else have anything you want to chime in on, question or comment, please do. Okay. Hearing nothing, I'll start slideshow, but don't hesitate to jump in anytime. All right. So hopefully you are seeing Canva, and hopefully you are now seeing the slideshow. So today's topic is keeping families engaged between May or June and fall. And the idea is it's summer communication. It is onboarding. That's the family that's coming in, and the re-enrollment and retention. And by re-enrollment and retention, what I mean is it's a family that was with you last year. Maybe it's their 10th year. It's getting them re-engaged and falling in love again. It's the minimization of attrition that occurs from year to year, especially that late, last minute, dear John letter that you may get that, I've decided she's going to the local public school or charter school or some other private school or another nursery school. Now, this stuff happens, by the way. Let's face it. Some people would say should over and always over enroll. I wouldn't go that far. But I would say that you want to have an enrollment demand for families who really, really want to get into your school. And I do not mean they put their name on a waiting list. I mean families that really want to be with you and you don't currently have room for them, but you have vetted each other. You know that you love to have them. They know that they very much want to be part of your school, ideally. Now, keep in mind, the average family is going to apply to at least three schools because they're hedging their bets. But ideally, there's this very strong relationship. There's this disappointment that they didn't get in this year, and you want to have families ready to come in the event that you get a last minute departure. You also want to build in your budget a vacancy rate, the idea that you're going to have a certain number of spaces that are probably going to go dark. Families are going to leave. You're not going to get paid. So you don't want a budget that depends on being 100% full because you are likely to be very, very disappointed. So the through line today is that the summer is not a time for you to go to play golf. It is not your vacation. It is the time when most of us who run schools are busiest. It is definitely not a time to turn on the answering machine, to have your email saying, "Hello, I'm on vacation. I'll check my email once in a while." And that's not true if you're a teacher. If you're a teacher and you're not an administrator, God bless you. Go sail your boat, go fishing, go camping, go to Europe, do whatever makes you feel renewed. But if you're running a school, this is not the time for vacation normally. This is a time when you catch up, when you get everything ready. You're doing lots of things. Some of it is just busy work, office work. But one of the things you're typically doing is you're dealing with the phone calls, the emails, the people that show up at the office unexpectedly who just want to visit. They wonder if you have any space. They want to see their child's classroom. They want to know who's going to be in the class. They have a million questions. What do I need on the first day of school? And the first thought is don't have an answering machine or an automatic email responder that says, I'm on vacation. Now, by the way, if you are on vacation, you're on vacation. I personally, even if I was on vacation, I was answering the phone, I was answering email. That's your choice. You're not obligated to be a Montessori martyr. You're not a Montessori monk, but you have to have someone in the school who's able to perform the function because it doesn't always have to be you, but it has to be someone good who can respond to whatever comes up, whether it's a summer flood, whether it's a break-in, whether it's a raccoon that gets into the school and is damaging all the materials, whether it's a family that shows up, lots of stuff happens during the summer break. Whether or not you're running a summer program, which by the way, I would argue you should be doing because you can't afford to have your school sitting dark. So that doesn't mean that there's always a market. I can tell you in Sarasota, Florida, for years we tried to get a strong summer camp going, and our particular school didn't have the kind of facilities that made sense for summer camp. We didn't have a pool, we didn't have horses, it was hot. We never developed a strong interest because there were lots of programs in Sarasota the families could choose. But I would definitely tell you, if you can, whether it's a tutoring center, whether it's childcare, whether it's test Montessori out, it's a good idea to have things going on in the summer for a lot of reasons, one of which is you need income coming in throughout the year. I'm a great believer in 12-month schools. And you want to be sure that there's action on campus because if a family arrives from Cleveland to your school, ideally you would like to have Montessori programs going on. You like to have kids from your own school on campus so that you can say to a family, let me introduce you to this young person here who is a rising fifth grade student who might be able to share with you what it's like. And obviously, you don't just spring this on a kid who doesn't want to meet a prospective parent. But the idea of having youth ambassadors, parent ambassadors, teachers around is not a bad idea. Now, summer is not downtime, it's a bridge between commitment and belonging. In others, from the moment that they say, yeah, I'm coming back, or yes, I accept admission, and when they start school, and that feeling of engagement or re-engagement with your community, that's what summer's for. So families don't stay just because you've got great academics. I mean, a lot of them say that's why they're there, but I'll bet you that for a lot of your parents, they care more about the fact that you've got a top-notch softball team or a golf team or tennis, or because their kids' best friends are there. There are lots of reasons why they come. And it's also that they feel that they like you. They like the teachers. They like being part of your school. As one father said to me, every time I drive onto the campus at Barry, my blood pressure goes down. I just feel like I belong here. I'm so proud that I can give this gift to my child. So they stay with our schools because they feel known, they feel seen, they feel connected, and they are confident. So the task in the summer is to not go radio silent, but to create some kind of predictable pattern or rhythm of communication, welcoming, and of building relationships, which means it's got to be more than emails, but emails certainly can be part of it. Now, by September or whenever your school year starts again, school should feel not like a cold start, but more like a returning to a community that is already in motion. Another point of that is the idea of normalization. A lot of people have teachers that, are very embarrassed by the fact that their class of, let's say, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds or lower elementary, you know, they don't normalize. They don't want any parents coming in the room for the first 6 weeks. That's not the way it ideally should be. Ideally, pretty much on the first day, you should not have tears. Now, you may have some from the toddlers, but ideally, you have already developed a relationship with those children, with those teachers, with those families, that the first day is something they've been looking forward to. It's not scary at all. And they're not resentful that school is starting and summer's over. It's like, when does school start? Is it school yet? Is it school yet? So the goal is to try to keep that kind of culture going. And on the first day of school, in the ideal, it should be like there was never a summer break, ideally. So a community in motion. Now, what I just threw out there are some pretty big ideas, and some of it may be controversial. Certainly, a lot of teachers listening to this would say, you got to be out of your mind. It takes me 3 months before my class begins to settle in. So if anyone wants, yes, but this is your chance. Unmute and let's talk. Nope. Okay. All right, next slide. Why does summer engagement matter? Out of sight, out of mind, and that's your enemy. You don't want to be out of their sight and out of their mind. The summer is one of the most vulnerable times in the entire enrollment cycle. This is when families, when they get that first big bill or first monthly payments start to hit, they really begin to have sticker shock and they really begin to say, geez, are we really going to do this? And if they can, they'll find an excuse to get out of it if they don't really want to be there. Families during the summer can quietly reconsider the cost of your school, the logistics of having to drive across town to get to your school, the fact that there's probably a free or a sexier alternative, private or public. It could be that in the summertime there's a move, they get transferred, they get divorced, they get separated, the job transfer, any kind of thing can happen. Or they may just be worried. Are we really doing the right thing to commit ourselves for one more year? Now, you'd think they did that back in January or February, or when they first got the offer of admission. But summer is when you are the most out of touch, when you're the most unreachable in a lot of cases, and when they are the most likely to be having a panic attack. Now, a lot of schools say, I do not send out emails during the summer because I don't want to get email. This is my vacation. And I don't want to bother my parents. But silence creates emotional distance, just as it does in a marriage. Schools that open strong in September are usually the ones that never stopped building community. So the core idea is that summer is an extension of your onboarding season, and it's not a pause in that relationship. And retention begins before you got a problem, not when the problem has already come. So I often talk about the idea that Montessori is a lifestyle product. And what I mean by that is there's not only a brand in Montessori, and you and I both know that it's people think it's a brand. They think that AMS or AMI or the Montessori Foundation or the IMC or somebody, controls it, that we are the Montessori police, and every Montessori school is exactly like they read about online or in the books, and they want to know why this school doesn't do real Montessori. All right, you and I both know it's not really a brand. However, it is a brand. We are tainted by the weakest Montessori school in town, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. We are also not a commodity. And so the way I usually say this is don't sell Montessori, sell your unique school. The Barry School, the Newgate School, the Kingsley School, the Bowman School, Carver Valley Montessori, these are not interchangeable. Your Montessori school is unique to you. It's unique to your place. It's unique to your building, your location, your community. The people make up the school. However, Montessori is, for the typical parent that gets involved, something that tends to be what they call a lifestyle product. What they mean by a lifestyle product is you become brand loyal, you become kind of a groupie, like a newly converted Catholic or Jew or whatever. People like me who love Apple products, you just rave about them. Why would anyone use a PC? I don't particularly like Starbucks, but people stand in line at Starbucks for 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get a bitter cup of coffee and pay $6. I don't get it, but there are people that are Starbucks groupies. And there are people that do the same thing with Teslas. I'm probably one of those. I got two of them. And there are people that are Volvo. In fact, in Sweden, what they call a Volvo is a Montessori wagon. Montessori is also like Apple, Starbucks, Gucci, whatever. Not necessarily, and by this I don't mean expensive, although certainly people will argue that Montessori is only for the rich. But Montessori is a distinct thing. It's a culture, a lifestyle, a philosophy. And that's what you want. You want people that really are bonded to the idea of Montessori. And you see it every time a family says, Lynn, I'm moving to Seattle. Can you recommend a good Montessori school in the River Hill district? Or can you help me pick a great school? What they're saying to you is, I got to leave you, but I want to find something just as good, another Montessori school. And if you were running a non-Montessori school, it could be that you'd find, like if you're a Steiner school, a Waldorf school, can you find me a Waldorf school in this town? Or if you're a progressive school or a Quaker school. But if you're a generic public school or private school, what you would ask people is, can you recommend a great school? What's the best school in Back Bay, Boston? So again, a lifestyle product has an identity. It's not just which is the best one. It's a brand loyalty. Now, our schools are lifestyle products and they're buying more than the academics. When a family chooses any school that is charging tuition over any kind of free option, I don't care what it is, or cheap option, they're choosing to be part of an identity, a community. They want to be something, they want to be involved with something that they trust. They want to feel like they belong, and they want to have, there's a story here somewhere. What kind of childhood are they trying to create for their child or for their children? So again, they want belonging, they want confidence, they want trust, and they want identity. And our job is to build up those building blocks, and I'm sure there's many more. So what are we really trying to do? I would argue we're trying to get 5 outcomes to occur during the summer. One, we want stickiness. Stickiness is the term that is used in marketing to say that your company has got people by the shoulders. They love you. There's something about you that brings them back again and again and again. And it makes emotionally getting a divorce difficult because the families feel connected. You are not interchangeable. This was not a one night romance, it's a relationship. We want to head off attrition as our second goal. We're trying to address concerns, pay attention to concerns before a family sends us the Dear John letter, before that email saying, my daughter won't be returning next year. I'm so sorry. We also want to onboard every single new family. We want to make the first day feel not intimidating, but like, man, I'm finally home. I'm at Disneyland. I can't believe I'm here. That's what we're trying to do. The fourth thing is we're trying to activate our volunteers. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to get volunteers because you send out an email in the summer and ask for them. You got to be developing your volunteer group all through the year before. But this is when they normally get the most active. Because just like when you first went to college, you may have had a big sister, big brother. You want parent ambassadors who are out there doing various things to support your school, not only by planning the fall picnic, back to school picnic, or whatever they're doing. You want to help, you want to get parents who are reaching out to every single new family to welcome them into the school, to arrange play dates, to encourage them to show up for the first, the new parent reception or the back to school night, whatever it is that you do in your school. And we're all trying to build friendships. We want parents to make friends with other parents because it is really, really difficult to leave a school where your kids are friends with each other and where your best friends all go to schools. The way it's typically described by the best private schools in America is my child, my heart, almost all my free time, and every single dollar of discretionary income goes to Concord Prep. We're trying to create that kind of deeply engaged relationship. Now, there are 3 family groups that need 3 different messages. There's the newly admitted family, there's the ones who are returning, they're maybe in their second to fourth year with the school. Now, by the way, it doesn't mean that families that have been with you for 5 to 10 years don't need love too, but those people are probably really part of the family by that point. And then there's families that are on your waiting list. And by the way, usually we pretty much ignore the waiting list unless we suddenly have an opening. Then we wonder why there is no one on the waiting list anymore. So the newly admitted family is excited, but they're typically confused. They have questions. They don't know what's going to happen. They're the people who call you up and say, Renee, can I bring my daughter over to the playground so she gets familiar with the place? Is it okay? Or can you give me a list of families that I can contact that'll be in my child's class? Because I really want her to have friends on the first day. Our goal is to help every single new family feel welcome. We want to orient them. We want to reduce or eliminate any anxiety or any uncertainty for the kid and for the parent. The second is the family that is returning. It's their second year, their third year, their fourth year. These people are comfortable, but they're probably not fully committed yet. I mean, they're there for a year or two, but they're the ones who would leave you in kindergarten or at age 4 when, some other school has an opening. We want to deepen the relationship with these people during the summer, and we want to get them engaged into the community deeper and deeper if we can. Now, the people who are on the waiting list, they don't know. They may have forgotten they were on the waiting list if you really haven't been communicating. But ideally, these are people who are bugging you. What's the chance? Where am I on the waiting list? Is there any chance that we'll get in this fall? Because they don't know. They don't know. Are they going to have to write a $10,000 check to you? They don't know. And they just don't know what's going on. So they can be pretty anxious. They're typically hopeful, they're uncertain, and they're easily lost. These people can very easily just drift away. What we want to do is make sure these people feel valued and they're ready to say yes if you have an opening. So again, the stickiness principle is that we really want retention and we want them to bring their friends, referrals. They grow as families become more and more connected to us. Now, every time you have a touch point with a family, it's an investment you're making in onboarding your family, in getting families to stay year after year after year, to become groupies, true believers, to have them refer their friends to you, and to feel confident in your school. And one of the things that they really want is they know it's not going to be perfect. What they want to know is if they ever have a question, you're not going to cold shoulder them. They're not going to be thought of as troublemakers because they're worried. They want to know that they can just trust everything's going to be okay. Friends bring in their friends. Parents who love your school will be the best advertising and recruitment that you possibly have, which doesn't mean I would suggest don't spend money on advertising. That's a serious mistake not to do that too. But definitely work your existing community. Parents who feel disconnected are much more likely to drift away the first time something comes along that looks as attractive, if not more attractive, or free. And I got to tell you, it is hard to compete with free. So the goal is not simply more communication, it's more meaningful communication, which means don't send out stupid emails or stupid newsletters or just think sending out a parent handbook is going to do it. You got to do something way beyond that for this to work, which doesn't mean you aren't going to send out those rather mundane emails. I mean, we all have to. But the point is that most people don't even know you were talking to them, no less remember what you said. So we've got to find a way to get their attention. So there's a summer email nurture sequence. And those of you who have a copy of the new parents onboarding playbook, especially the new version that I produced, there are examples in there. And if you don't have it, let me know in the chat and I'll be happy to send you a copy. So you want to, in a normal summer, from the time it really can start anytime you want, but let's say your school year ends the end of May. Between June, July, and August, you're going to send home 8 to 12 emails and you're going to write them. You're going to have them all queued up, ready to go. And that doesn't mean there couldn't be last minute changes because who knows what happens during the summer. A teacher might leave or there's a flood in the gymnasium. I don't know what things happen over the summer. So you want to write the emails and have them all queued up. If you're using an email communication software like Illumine or Montessori Compass with Montessori Grow Suite, AIMS program, if you're part of the Montessori Foundation's marketing program, what we call the Montessori enrollment onboarding, if you're part of NITO calls itself Thrive these days, you probably have the ability to set this all up in advance and say, one day after the family has accepted admission, this email goes out. And 15 days later, or on May 15th, this goes out. Having it all set up makes it much easier than trying to do it at the last minute. You can segment the sequence. In other words, you can have new families, you can have returning families, waiting list families, and of course, you can have my infant toddler program could have a different message from my early childhood, my rising kindergartners, or what you might call third year students might have different messages. Again, there's nothing wrong with segmenting and customizing your messages. And of course, some people literally believe in writing every family throughout the year in some kind of cycle. For example, at Bowman Montessori, Mary Beth Ricks recommends sending out a personalized message, either a phone call, a text, or an email to 15 families a week. And it's not the same message. And then you want to use each message to reduce anxiety, and you want to add value or strengthen the sense of belonging to your school community. That's why we do this. So the operating rule is don't rely on someone remembering to send a fresh email every week. Send it out, batch it, schedule it, review and adjust it as needed, but make sure it really happens. So here's a 10-touch summer sequence. This is just an example. It's a cadence from late May to the second week of school. So again, take a screenshot. I'm going to send you this slideshow, but the basic idea is here's a list of examples of topics that you might send out. There's no wrong answer. By the way, those of you that are part of the Montessori Family Alliance, whether individually as a family or as a school, if your families are in our software, they're going to all get weekly newsletters beginning on the 1st of July. These are not intended to replace your emails. But what we're doing is we're basically backing up your parent onboarding, your parent ed. And again, we're going to be trying to do it in such a way that families feel heard, and real questions are really answered, not going to just be Montessori, what is the jargon of the day, but, what do I do when my kid does this? And if you haven't seen the Montessori Family Alliance and met Abigail, Abigail can help you figure out how to get your toddler to eat broccoli, how to get her to go to sleep, what to do with your teenager when he sulks all day, how to make a family ground rule about digital devices. What do you do if your kid gets invited to a first bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah? There are lots of things in there. So again, we would recommend get your sequence set up from your school. I would not simply rely on my teachers to do this. This is a serious mistake. Not every teacher is very good at writing to their families. It doesn't mean they shouldn't. It's just don't rely on them. If you do ask your teachers to do something, which, by the way, a lot of them really don't want to do, assume they're not going to do 10, and definitely read everything carefully to make sure that what's going out is congruent with the kind of tone you're trying to set. So also during the summer, I would personally either do a survey or even better, call people and ask the question. I mean, I teach during our workshops on creating partnership with families. We always say, ask these 3 questions. And, I think, Renee, I don't know if I got this from you originally or from John, but this whole idea of asking families periodically during the year, how are things going at your house? Has anything happened that we should know about? A new puppy, grandma's moved in, Johnny got his first tooth, broke his arm. What's going on? Is there anything we should know? And that anything we should know could be, you and your spouse are looking at a separation and you want to keep quiet, or, you may have to move out of town. What's going on? And do you have any specific hopes or dreams for next year? So especially the hopes or dreams, that could be for the next term, the next month, what are you most anxious to see? So we would say send it out at least in early June. Send it again, some version of this as you get ready for school. It could be the teachers, and they can have different words to ask the same kind of things. You want to share themes with teachers before the opening days. And you want to use answers to personalize the welcome, the placement, and any early issues that you're going to deal with. Now, parent ambassadors. I'm a great believer in setting up a parent ambassador program if you can. Now, to do this, you really need to have, ideally, at least one room parent, parent ambassador who's willing to do this kind of work during the summer. Now, what I mean by this is it's one thing to look at what a room parent usually does, and a lot of that has to do with how big is your class. A typical parent is not going to reach out to more than 10 families, including your own, at any one time. They just won't. So if you have 30 kids in a class, you would want three room parents ideally. If you really want a telephone tree to work, or a reminder tree, or an invitation tree. But parent ambassadors are usually used in a way that's different from room parents, even though they may be the same people. So think of a parent ambassador as an Eagle Scout. They're all scouts, but the Eagle Scouts are the top people. These are the people that are helping you to create onboarding with your other families, especially new families. You want to pair every new family with a returning family in the same age group or the same class. You want to ask the ambassador parent to make a personal welcome contact. Ideally, they're going to arrange a coffee with the other family, a park play date, maybe a play date at someone's house, or an informal summer meetup. The goal of the parent ambassador is not to be an expert. They don't have to have the answers, but they're going to hear the real questions that new parents may not be comfortable asking us. And it's the deal is, of course, if they don't know the answer, they make a note of it and say, I'll ask Tim and I'll get back to you, or I'll have Tim give you a call. Uh, the other thing is they typically they answer the basic questions, the norms, like where do we park, and what if we're late, or what's really important. So by day one, the new child, not just the parent, should recognize at least a face. The parents should know someone in the community as well. Now, you want to have an ambassador toolkit because the parent ambassadors do not do well with ambiguity. They need a very clear role, they need boundaries, and they need things to do that are very well defined and that are frankly pretty easy for them to do. So you want to give them a template for a welcome email or text. You want to give them a document with the top 10 frequently asked questions with answers that you're comfortable with. You want to be sure that they know the key dates of what's going on in the summer and back to school. Like in most states, you've got to have certain papers in by a certain date or the kid can't start school. And I think you've all had times where your office is calling people frantically because we don't have records, we don't have transcripts, we don't have the medical form. Something isn't come in. We don't know who's authorized to pick the kid up. We've got to, we want the parents at least to know what are the key things, even though they're not the ones collecting. We want to suggest how do they reach out to these people. So we want to role play with them how this might work. And we want to give them an admissions office contact or an office contact. Who do I call if a parent asks a question? Because we really have to do it. Again, ambassadors they're friendship builders. They're building relationship. They're not official agents of the school. They are fellow parents. So we want to get families back on campus. Don't wait until the final week before school. And you can do this in lots of ways. And in fact, I'm going to ask you guys to read this, and I'm going to invite everyone who wants to chime in on the chat or to, unmute and let's talk. What do you do to get families back on campus? How do you do this? Anybody?
We do a play date. This is Lynn. We do a play date in the summer. I'm primary, 3 to 6 year olds. I don't know if we're small or medium, but we are generally enroll about 75 kids in the morning, fewer in the afternoon. but we do a play date on our playground for families to come and bring a picnic lunch. Especially for the new families, that's a really nice thing to have. And then we also we have the official meet the teacher day before school starts, and they actually make appointments for that so that the teacher can have a brief one-on-one time with the families when they bring their indoor shoes and their extra clothes, and we give them a Sharpie to make sure everything's labeled.
Thank you, Lynn. Anyone else?
We have a back to school, meet the teacher, ice cream social, kind of throw it all together, orientation day.
Okay. Marlene, what do you do?
We have a picnic in September for all the families. And we also have one in the spring. We try to do a lot of activities with the parents, with the families.
Yeah, giving parents an opportunity to set up things like babysitter or childcare sharing so you can have mom's night out or parents' night out. Just getting to know each other. There's no wrong way to do it. Do any of you have the families come in to help beautify the campus? Invite them to come in and do summer gardening, or let's refresh the campus after a summer of weeds growing or whatever happens.
We call it playground cleanup.
Yeah.
Spreading more bark
Yep, yep.
chips, getting the weeds out, and all sorts of things like that.
We actually
Again,
had
a lot of school. Go ahead.
we actually had our summer school leader, our summer program leader, and it's a much smaller program with only 20 children. But one of the teachers invited families from this past school year, even if their children weren't attending, to come plant some plants, bring their beehive information and equipment in to learn more about my big backyard theme that we're doing. So to involve them in the summer session, even if they weren't participants.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. Again, there's no wrong answer. So many different things we can do. So again, you may have families that go out of town. They may have country houses or something. So we have to figure out what's going on. But I think the more creative ideas you come across is great, especially those kids that are moving up. I often mention that if you were a student in Japan, you would be expected to show up at school 2 weeks before school starts or before classes start. And the idea is you, as a child, and the teachers actually clean the school and prepare it for the new school year. And if you think about the idea of a children's house, and I realize you're not going to bring the toddlers into the classroom to prepare the classroom, and your brand new rising 3-year-olds are not of much help, and your returning 4s and 5s are not a lot of help. But just think about what you can do if some, if not all, of your families are willing to bring their child in for a morning or maybe multiple mornings while you, as the teachers, are trying to rearrange your classroom. Maybe you had to tear it down during the summer, or maybe it's just time to literally clean every single piece of material, make sure it's all perfect, refresh the environment. Why would we not invite children to be part of that if we want them to feel ownership? So these are all different ideas you can use. There's no wrong answer. So again, every school has some kind of student welcome and orientation. And of course, many schools do that summer, either back to school picnic just before school starts, or those summer gatherings, the ice cream socials. I know one school that has a petting zoo and pony rides and all kinds of things, the weekend before school starts. There's no wrong answer. What we're trying to do is give kids a sense of excitement. In the Jewish tradition, you give an infant a book with honey on the cover. And the idea is that they associate a book with something really wonderful, really sweet. What we're trying to do is create experiences that for the parent and the child make school and the return to school really sweet. So, first day of school. Day one should feel like you're back home again. Oh my gosh, finally, summer's over. Lots of ways to do it. One way, when I was a kid at the Berry School, and this is back in the Stone Age, we were all gathered in this big hall. My mother and her assistants would be up on stage. They would show slides of the history of the school. They would play the school music, which was Pachelbel. My wife hates Pachelbel because she's heard it so many times. There was a candle burning, which represented the spirit of the school. Everyone was welcome back. Think Harry Potter in the Grand Hall with less of the evil, scary stuff. It was pretty wonderful. And there was just lots of fun. So however you do it, whether you do it in the classroom or whether they gather kids on the field and do like a celebration of the earth, no wrong answer. But think about how you can create traditions either at the classroom level, the division level, or the whole school level for coming back to school. Some schools do a student scavenger hunt before school begins. A lot of ways to do that. You can have a swag grab, give them, and again, ideally you have school shirts and sweatshirts and backpacks and water bottles, and obviously you sell these things, but probably there's a certain amount of stuff that you at least give the brand new kids. With admission to my school that costs $15,000, $25,000, $35,000, you get a sweatshirt and you get a t-shirt and you get a Berry School water bottle, whatever. Obviously, we want the teachers to communicate with the child, not only the parents. So ideally, there is a letter or a video or something from the teacher sent to the student that says something like, Marlene, my name is Tim. I'm going to be your teacher this year, and I want you to know how much I'm looking forward to meeting you on the first day of school. I look forward to hearing from you. Anything you want me to know, either send me a letter or have your mom let me know, and I'll be delighted to know all I can about you. I look so much forward to meeting you on the first day of school or on the week before school. That would be the kind of thing I'm talking about. Some people do it with a postcard. It could be a short personal note. No wrong answer. You can have students get to know each other, especially at upper elementary and middle school, high school, long before they're all coming back from their summer vacation. Because a lot of our families are international. They're in Europe, they're in Africa, they're in Asia, who knows where they are. And so you may have them communicating by email in some way, getting buddies together. And then there are lots of ways to kick off the first day of school. No wrong answers, lots of traditions, different things that work for different ages. So again, even young Montessori kids, I'm talking about 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, can serve as classroom ambassadors, welcoming the new coming children to the classroom, greeting them, showing them, helping, giving them a sense of feeling included. That's very important in my opinion. So we're going to have hard conversations because eventually something's going to bother them. They've really, I showed up 10 minutes late and you shut the door in my face and wouldn't let me come in until now 10 o'clock because I wasn't there before 9. And this feels harsh. So real engagement means you're going to have some very honest conversations with parents. It could be they're upset. It could be they're worried. So if a situation makes you feel uncomfortable and you're not sure what to say, this is obviously what you want to say to the parent, please call us. If we can help, if I can help, if anyone in our office can help, just call us. We're here for you. We're here to help. There are no second-class citizens in a Montessori school. None. Every single family matters equally. I don't care if you're brand new. I don't care if your mama gave $100,000. It doesn't matter. Everyone is part of the community. Board members do not walk on water. They are just like everyone else. They really, if you've got a parent board, you got to train them. If you're a parent in this school, when you're a board member, it's true that any other parent may approach you and say, I want to bend your ear, but that's fine. But don't expect us to treat you any differently because you're a board member. You're a parent here. And when you're a parent, you're a parent. Parents often fear judgment. They really feel embarrassed, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't want to, I don't, I don't want to sound stupid.
Bad on the children or the part that moves water all around.
Not sure who that was talking, but please feel free to jump in. So what parents really need is a lot of empathy rather than hair trigger. When they come in and they forget to bring in the second pair of clothes, or their kid has an accident the first day and they've said that he's potty trained and he's got poop in his pants and there's no spare clothes, it is so humiliating to be a parent in that situation. So again, give them grace, help them understand what they need to do, but don't make them feel ashamed. You can't control every child, you can't control every parent, but you can control how the school responds. And conflict can be a learning opportunity if you handle it correctly. So there are admissions questions you may want to ask, like before you offer them admission, just figure out, is this someone I really want in my school? How would you know? This is just one example of a question you might ask, like, try to imagine you're really upset there's something going on between your kid and one of his classmates. How are you going to respond? What do you expect of us? What do you want us to know? What do you want us to do? So again, your back to school launch is really critical. It's what's going to set the tone. So again, you want a plan of exactly how are you going to handle the first 90 days of school. And most of us, all we do is we think about the first day or the first week, and that's it. And I would argue it really the whole year needs to be planned, but the first 90 days is absolutely vital. Now, again, when I send you the recording, I'm going to send you a PDF of this slideshow, and you don't have to take notes. So again, you want to develop an action plan for the year of all the different things that need to be done. Trust me, this is a very simplified example of what an action plan would look like. And you want to make sure that your plan is something you can actually do. I mean, it's great to put it in writing, but if you're not going to actually get it done, then it's not really a plan. So try to figure out who's going to do it, when are they going to do it, and make sure that it's something reasonable. They're really going to get these things done so that you become dependable. There's patterns in the way your school operates. And by the way, track. See whether or not your ambassadors are really following up. I mean, it's called trust but verify. See, have they been contacted? Did the teachers really do what they said they were going to? You do not want to be that principal who in late September realized the teacher never reached out to those parents. Not okay. And again, you can't make the teacher do it, but darn it, if they can't do it, then you better do it because you can't afford to have this done poorly. And discussion prompts for the webcast. I think it's time to stop sharing. This is something that was obviously for me and didn't need to be a slideshow. So I think that's it for this week. And any last thoughts? I think it did pretty well after a tornado here in town.
Yeah, my favorite advice is to use templates and checklists rather than improvisation. I'm really good at improvisation. not so much performer.
As people say, we forget things. If we don't have it written down, there's not a chance that we're going to do it. If it's written down, maybe we'll do it. Anyone else? Then hearing nothing further, I will declare this session closed, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.